Hello and welcome back to the Frogs of War podcast. I'm Anthony North. That's Russ Hodges. We're back to talk all things TCU athletics. Another successful week on the baseball diamond for the Horned Frogs, now riding a 6-game win streak into a huge weekend series coming up against the Texas Tech Red Raiders. And TCU held its pro day today, Thursday, and as the Horned Frogs hope to impress NFL scouts and coaches. Also some basketball news, tennis, beach volleyball, equestrian, everything else at the everything school that TCU is. And we'll get into all of that today. Russ, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. I like that we're getting into these on Thursday evenings now. I know we were doing this for a while on Wednesdays, and we get to it Thursday night, and it's like the weekend is almost here. So I get a little bit more excited to hop on the podcast on a Thursday evening to talk TCU sports with you. And like you said, a lot of good stuff to talk about tonight. So excited to get into it, and some big things coming up as well.
Yeah, so let's jump right into the baseball with TCU bounces back after series loss against Oklahoma, gets the series sweep against Kansas back home in Lupton. Russ, walk us through how this weekend went and you know, what it took to take down Kansas. I think Kansas is probably not going to be knocking on any doors for the Big 12 championship or anything like that, but it's nice to get a series sweep.
Yeah, exactly. This is a series that we have been hoping to see for a few weeks now. Having picked up big wins against Abilene and Northwestern earlier in the week, offense showed some really good rhythm over those first couple games in the midweeks. Kansas, like you said, they're a little bit weaker in the conference right now, so not a extremely formidable opponent, but the Frogs have had some struggles over their last few weekend sets, some struggles against San Diego, Oklahoma, not to mention Florida State earlier in the season. So we've been kind of itching for a sweep for a while now, and this was just a dominant showing from TCU baseball this weekend. The Friday game was really the only competitive game of the weekend. It was a back and forth game. Kansas actually had a 5-2 lead in this game, and then TCU came back with 4 unanswered runs. Trey Richardson hit a go-ahead RBI single, I believe, to give TCU a 6-5 lead. Kansas gets 1 back, but then TCU with 2 runs in the bottom of the 8th. Cole Fontenelle with an RBI along with Trey Richardson there to make it 8-6, giving TCU the lead in the bottom of the 8th. And then Luis Rodriguez, the freshman, has had such a strong season already with a couple of saves, comes on and throws a clean 9th inning for his 3rd save of the season. So a good start to the series to come back and get that win. 8-6 was the final score Friday. And then the offense just completely took over after that. TCU wins 18-5 on Saturday. Carson Bowen opened the game up with a 3-run homer. He's continued to have an impressive start to the season. Freshman catcher has been huge with Curtis Byrne being out of the lineup, and we've talked about him at times being one of TCU's best hitters, and he's been a huge surprise. We talked about Anthony Silva coming in as a freshman to watch out for, and Carson Bowen has been putting some people on notice with his bat. So he had 4 RBIs in this game, really stepped up for TCU. And then Cole Klecker, another freshman, he's been starting on Saturdays these last few weekends, and he's not looking like a freshman. I mean, he's showing great stuff out there. He has great command of his pitches. He threw 7 innings. He's had multiple long starts where he's going deep into games and putting together quality outings. So Cole Klecker has been fantastic in the rotation. TCU wins Saturday 18-5. They had a 7-run inning later on in the game. Took advantage of some defensive mistakes by Kansas in this one, and just some frankly mediocre pitching. So 18-5, TCU winning Saturday, and then 14-0, a clean shutout. Run rule game, actually. I forget sometimes that they have the run rule in college baseball, much like they do the high school. You know, they got the high school season going on right now, so it's up here it's 10 runs after 5 and 15 runs after 4, and that's it. And TCU run rules Kansas in this game, 14-0. Cam Brown pitched the entire game, 7 innings, had 8 strikeouts, and really encouraging performance from him. Had a couple of shorter outings leading into this where he went 4+, not really going deep into the game, but really efficient outing in this one. His breaking stuff looked really good. His fastball looked good. So happy to see Cam Brown pitch really well in this game. Anthony Silva, this man is scorching hot right now. He had 5 RBIs in this game. He has 12 RBIs in his last 3 games, and he's on a tear.
Demolishing baseballs.
He's on a tear. And
smashing.
he had an 8-game hitting streak to start the season and then missed a little bit of time with an injury. I believe it was a hamstring injury. Came back, was kind of struggling a little bit to find his rhythm, but it's safe to say that that timing is back because and we'll talk about the UT Arlington game in a little bit. 5 RBIs in the Sunday game for Silva. Braden Taylor went long. Austin Davis also went long. Braden Taylor now has 8 home runs on the season, and we still have, 60% of the schedule here to play. So continuing to show that power in the middle of the order. Trey Richardson is just Mr. Consistent. It's 2 hits a game seemingly for Trey Richardson. He's scoring a lot of runs as well, getting on base, moving around the base path. So all in all, this was the offense that we were expecting coming into the year. Not just your veteran guys like Taylor and Davis and Richardson, who are going to give you really good at bats on a at bat by at bat basis, but the depth is really starting to show with guys like Carson Bowen and Cole Fontenelle and Anthony Silva, even Luke Boyers, who we've talked about is really struggling with strikeouts and average down into the 150s, 160s. He's hitting over 340 over his last 6 games and is actually hitting leadoff right now. I think Kirk Saarloos and his staff are kind of challenging him to deliver in a big spot at the top of that order, and he's coming through. He has 9 hits over his last 6 games, so really happy to see that from Luke Boyers, a veteran player in Luke Boyers. So the depth is really shining through with this lineup right now. It's not just your 2, 3, 4 hitters. It's really 1 through 6, 2 through 7. And Anthony Silva has been primarily hitting 9th this year as well. They want to protect the freshman a little bit, not put him in a super important spot higher up in the lineup. But he's been fantastic over these last couple of games. So ultimately, just really good stuff from TCU in this series. Now 4-2 in Big 12 play, and you hope they can just continue to carry that momentum forward into this series coming up tomorrow against Texas Tech.
Yeah, in that run rule game, I think it is where only the Sunday games are run rule for to limit to travel, so you don't have late nights playing or something like that. But because last season TCU hung 30 runs on Kansas in a game. I think it was a 30 to 3. Yeah. So maybe if that Sunday game had been allowed to go the distance, they could have tried to match that performance from last season. But yeah, just really great to see the offense come out, put on a show for the fans at Lupton. I think Lupton tends to be a little bit more of a pitcher's ballpark. Runs can be a little bit suppressed there, and so to have that kind of offensive output, doing it with power, doing it in all different kinds of ways. So it's great to see that from the Frogs, and hope it will continue to carry over throughout the rest of this Big 12 schedule. The other thing, I guess, is just it seems that Saarloos is finding a groove with this new lineup, all these new additions that everybody's kind of finding their place in the lineup, and it's really starting to click where I think it most shows, like you said, with Boyers, where he started the season off so slow, and now he's really picked up hitting towards the top of the lineup. So encouraging, and it certainly helped going into the midweek game. Another one that you have to win, but that TCU went out on the road to Arlington and got the win in the midweek.
Yeah, this is a game. TCU's already dropped one to UT Arlington earlier this season, so you hate to drop these midweek games to teams like UT Arlington or Abilene or whoever they play on Tuesdays. Those are games that you hope to see some dominance, and this was another dominant game, 14-3, the final score of this one. Another double-digit scoring game for this offense, which makes it 3 in a row, going back to Saturday's win over Kansas. TCU now 16-9 on the year. They're back into the top 25, number 24 overall in the most recent polls. Thought that might be the case with this recent win streak, but you looked at some of those tough losses to San Diego and UT Arlington and Oklahoma. Those Arkansas and Vanderbilt wins can only carry so much water. You lose maybe one or two of those games, okay, but when you lose 5 or 6 of them, all right, we might need to bump you down a few pegs. Yeah, but
it was appropriate to drop.
But this game, Anthony Silva, I mentioned him very briefly a couple minutes ago as, wait till we get to this game. He hit 2 monster home runs in this game. The first one was a really nice home run to left center field, took a fastball, I believe, low in the zone and drove it out of the ballpark. And then the second pitch was out of the zone a little high, and he got the bat up, elevated in the strike zone, and just pounded it out of the park. I mean, it was a no-doubter when it came off the bat, and I watched the clip a few times that TCU Baseball posted, and it was one of those plays where as soon as you hear the ball come off the bat and see the trajectory and the launch angle, it's gone. And a bit surprising to see that power, I think, from that young of a player, but it was really impressive to see another 5 RBI game for him in this one. His average is now up to 333. So, like I mentioned, the man is on fire, and he's playing some damn good defense at that shortstop position. So, just this is the Big 12 preseason freshman of the year. He's living up to that right now, and you hope that he can just stay healthy and continue to do what he's doing. It's going to be huge for this team. Cole Fontenelle was 3 for 5 in this game, hit a home run. He has 5 now on the season. His average is also up to 321. He was the guy that was earlier in the year kind of middling around the low to mid 200s. So he's on one right now as well. He's showing great power, and he's drawing quite a few starts at first base, and he's played all over the field, really. He's been a DH. He's played left field. He's played third base. He's playing quite a bit of first base right now, and he's showing the power that a first baseman can have with the 5 home runs. And David Bishop right now is still they're still waiting for him to get going. He's been DHing recently, so Cole Fontenelle has been drawing some starts at first base and just continuing to deliver. So happy to see him do that. And then Braden Sloan had a quality start in this game through 5 innings, struck out 7, which is the most that he's had in a game this season. Back-to-back quality starts for him. Really encouraged to see that. He had a couple of pretty rough outings in some midweek games prior to last week. And then he threw 6 innings, I believe, last week and got a quality start against Abilene Christian. So or it might have been Northwestern. I think Chase Hoover pitched in the Abilene game and was really dominant. So regardless, Braden Sloan, one of TCU's best freshman pitchers coming in. A good start for him. The bullpen, Chase Hoover, Cohen Feeser, River Ridings, they cleaned up the mess down the stretch. Chase Hoover right now actually has a 1.08 ERA in almost 17 innings pitched. So he's had a tremendous start to his freshman season. And then Cohen Feeser has not given up a run yet this year. He's only pitched 9 1/3, but he's made, I believe, 8 or 9 appearances throughout the season, and he hasn't given up a run. So he's showing great stuff and has been a really good option for Kirk Saarloos late in games with Luke Savage dealing with some injuries and Garrett Wright not really looking like Garrett Wright. So encouraged to see that from the young guys. Cohen Feezer, a sophomore, Chase Hoover, a freshman, Braden Sloan, a freshman. They're getting it done. So another good confidence-building win on Tuesday, going into a series against the team in Texas Tech that right now is ranked number 22 in the country. So it's going to be a tough test playing on the road as well. So Ryan Vanderhey, I'm assuming, is going to start tomorrow. He's been the Friday starter, and last few starts have been kind of a mixed bag. He's had some issues with command. He's walked a few guys and has gotten knocked around a little bit as well. So hopefully he can get back on track, and hopefully Cole Klecker and Cam Brown can continue to do what they're doing as well.
Yeah, Texas Tech is having an impressive season so far, and this series is the kind of thing that really sets the table for how the Big 12 standings are going to play out. It's a huge series to separate things. It's one last season TCU swept the Red Raiders in Lupton, and that really kind of allowed TCU to go and win the conference regular season title. So I don't know that we can expect a sweep in Lubbock this week. It's going to be a very difficult contest. The Red Raiders have already played, perhaps until this TCU series, the two toughest series in the conference with Oklahoma State and Texas. Getting swept in Austin against the Longhorns is less than ideal for them, but winning the series at home against Oklahoma State. Coming out of 6 games against what is probably the top of the conference, coming out of that 2-4 is not bad for them. Certainly got off to a really strong start to open the season. Had a long winning streak, but have really faded here of late, losing 4 straight after having taken a midweek loss to New Mexico following that Texas series sweep. So now they get to go back home to the friendly confines there in Lubbock and get a chance at revenge against the TCU team that swept them last season. So I think it will be a huge series. I think this is now TCU's conference season really picks up here. It's going to be, I guess TCU still does get Baylor, but it's going to be a pretty strong gauntlet down the stretch for the Frogs. So really getting started here with Texas Tech. And yeah, I guess with getting things started with Ryan Vanderhey, I think he's been able to get some good run support and been able to work his way around some things, but there's certainly been some concerning aspects to how he's set the table for the weekends over the last few weeks. So hopefully if the defense behind him and the Bats can escape there with a win in game 1, it really sets the table for a strong weekend for the Frogs. That it's just a huge series. I think that Texas Tech fans and TCU fans often enjoy going at each other, and that is certainly the case in baseball. And I think the folks in Lubbock are really looking for something to say over the Frogs, having been swept last season in baseball, swept in basketball, lost in football. So, we'll see. I think the Frogs will be ready to bring it, though, there in Lubbock. All right. I think that's all for baseball at this point. We can move on to the basketball news of the week. A couple of expected departures from the 2022-2023 roster. So as most of us probably would have expected, TCU star point guard Mike Miles Jr. has declared for the 2023 NBA draft. He held a press conference on campus earlier this week and made his intentions clear. And Jamie Dixon spoke as well about how ready Miles is for this opportunity and how it's the right time for him to make this move forward to the next level. And I think, Miles toyed with this decision last season and ultimately came back and put on a really strong season, although falling again in the second round and missing a few games due to some injuries. But for the most part, he was every bit the superstar that he's billed to be. And, I think he's definitely got a future in professional basketball, and really looking forward to see as he goes through this process how his stock will kind of ebb and flow. I think, I think back to how Desmond Bain coming out of TCU, as soon as he announced and he was gonna be going into the draft, I don't think there was a whole lot of buzz. But as he hit those draft combines and all of the various events leading up to the NBA draft, really opened a lot of eyes with his shooting skills and his all-around game. And I think Mike Miles has an opportunity to do something similar here this season going into the 2023 draft.
Yeah, Mike Miles, we've talked about this so often, how he showed, I think, the necessary growth as a player to take this step. And we've seen him be able to score the ball and be a high-volume shooter and scorer for this team. But where I wanted to see him grow this year was, can he be a more efficient scorer, and can he be a facilitator when he needs to be, and not be the kind of player where he gets the ball and then the ball just kind of sticks. I think this year he made some passes that were just super impressive, high-level cross-court passes, great bounce passes, ran some pretty good screen and roll at times. And as far as shooting the ball goes, he shot over 36% from three-point range. I believe he was in the upper 20s, lower 30s for three-point range last year, and shot almost 50% from the field. So he's a big shot maker. He's a big shot taker. That's the kind of mentality that you need to be able to make it at the next level. Is you got to be that guy. And Mike Miles was that guy in several different games this year. It's unfortunate that he had a couple of injuries that forced him to miss some time. He would have been first team all Big 12 had he not gotten injured against Mississippi State. But at the end of the day, he's one of the few players that TCU has had really over the last decade that have elevated the program to another level. 55-40 over the last 3 years with Mike Miles on the roster. Consecutive 20-plus win seasons, consecutive NCAA tournaments, making it to the second round. We may even still be a little disappointed with the ultimate result this year and just some of the things that happened on and off the court. Could this team have gone further or been better? Sure. But I think for a lot of teams in different sports every year, you can make that same argument. So I think Mike Miles averaging almost 18 points a game. When he's right, I think he's the best guard in the Big 12 Conference and is definitely worthy of this opportunity and is definitely deserving of a draft selection. So congratulations to Mike Miles and his family, and thank you for everything you did for TCU basketball over the last 3 years. And we have no idea what next season's going to hold and what next year's roster is going to look like. So we'll definitely cherish these last couple of years while we can.
Yeah, you just can't say enough about what Mike Miles has meant to this program. I mean, he probably could have played any place in the country. He took a chance on TCU, took a chance with Jamie Dixon, and I hope he feels like that was a a good choice for him and for his progress as a player and his career. But he has certainly raised this program to heights that it had never before seen. So TCU fans have to be very proud of him and very thankful for him and all of the work that he put in for the Horned Frogs. So yeah, absolutely congratulations and excited to root him on wherever he ends up at the next level. Another departure from this roster in the offseason as the transfer portal hits with Suleiman Doumbia, will enter the transfer portal as a grad transfer. He's spent 2 seasons with the Horned Frogs, and I think he came in with a lot of high hopes. He was one of the top JUCO recruits in the country in the class of 2021. The top big man for much of that recruiting cycle. So he was a bit of a gem for Jamie Dixon and a feather in the cap that never really produced at that kind of level for the Horned Frogs. He averaged under 5 minutes a game, under a point a game, under a rebound a game. But, when he did get his opportunities, he could come in and contribute, but really was just not able to live up to the level that maybe he was originally billed and for what it requires to be to really be a successful big man in the Big 12 Conference. So, again, I think all the best to him and appreciate his efforts with the Horned Frogs and think he will certainly find, you don't just find 7-foot guys walking around. So I'm sure he will, he'll have an opportunity somewhere else in college basketball and looking forward to following him. I mean, TCU lost 2 transfers, or lost several transfers, but lost 2 key transfers last offseason in Jaden Ledee and Francisco Farabello, and both of them ended up deep into the NCAA tournament. Of course, San Diego State is still playing at Jaden Ledee. So, maybe Doumbia gets a new life someplace else, and it really allows him to blossom.
I definitely feel like he was kind of a project player, a player with great size. And at the JUCO level, I feel like when you're that big and strong, you can definitely dominate just by your sheer size and being able to put the ball on the rim, within 3 feet and rebound the ball. But, watching him this year, like you said, he got very limited minutes. When he was out there for a minute or 2 at a time and just didn't really do a whole lot when he was on the floor. I felt like he was almost asked to just go out there and be a big body, body up an opposing team's big man, set screens, do some of the dirty work, get a couple rebounds if you can. Maybe if you get a dump off or a pass underneath, put it home. But to be with the program for 2 years and be a highly touted recruit and just not really play, maybe the fit just wasn't really there. And I'm really curious to see next season what the front court looks like for TCU, because as we know, Eddie Lampkin is already out of the program and now Suleimani Doumbia. So that's the only 2 centers that you had on the roster are gone now. And Xavier Cork is really your biggest body, and he's more of a power forward, less of a center, being only 6'9", and really not faring too well against bigger, more skilled big guys that we saw this season. So I think Dixon's got to go into the portal and bring in 1 or 2 big guys from 6'9" to 6'11". Don't have to necessarily be 7-footers, but big guys that have a more versatile skill set. Guys that can really run the floor or block shots or have good passing skills. Rebounding, yes. Yeah, rebounding, especially if Emmanuel Miller winds up staying out and not maintaining his eligibility. They're going to definitely need some rebounding as well. So It's portal combat, as John Rothstein says on Twitter. So there are hundreds of guys in the portal right now. A lot of them from the Big 12. So we'll see what happens. I definitely expect quite a few portal additions. We know that TCU has a couple of talented recruits coming in Jace Posey and Isaiah Manning, but they're both wing players. So they got to go in and get some beef up front. So interested to see what this roster looks like as this offseason moves forward.
Yeah, some beef up front, but also, some guard play as well. I mean, I think we're down to Shahada Wells and I guess Rondell Walker running point, and there's a lot of extremely talented high-level players in the portal at the guard position that I'd love to see Dixon go get somebody out there and bring them into Fort Worth. I think there will be some additions. There have to be, because this roster has to get filled up with some bodies. And, there'll be people looking to move up and move into the challenge of the Big 12 Conference and the new Big 12 Conference. So I think there'll be lots more to come as the offseason progresses there. Elsewhere in off-season news, moving on to TCU football, it was Pro Day today, as we mentioned. There on campus, had every NFL team on site, had the Canadian teams there, had including NFL head coaches Bill Belichick and Brian Daboll. It was, this class of Horned Frogs headed to the NFL is perhaps the best that TCU has ever sent to the league, and so certainly it brought out the stars to come in and watch the Horned Frogs perform and put on a show here. So also brought back some old friends from some former Frogs. Jalen Rager was there, Cavante Turpin was there, probably some others that we haven't seen, but I think the couple of big pieces of information, if we can even call it that. I don't know. I think the biggest takeaways from these pro days is the opportunities that they have to speak with these teams and to meet and kind of show that they're ready to be professionals. So some of this on-field stuff is always taken with a grain of salt. Everyone performs mostly better at their pro days than they do at the combine. But I think the big thing that everybody was there to see was Quentin Johnston run. He didn't run a 40 at the combine, and he did run here at the pro day. Was clocked at a 4.49 and then a 4.5. I think there were some various reports out there that he had maybe run a much higher, like 4.58, 4.59, and that was really concerning to people. And it's the kind of thing where, a receiver, there's speed thresholds that if you run too slow, it's concerning. I don't think Quentin Johnston came anywhere close to those dangerous thresholds. Mm-hmm. He did put on a strong performance here. I mean, 4.49 for a guy that his size is nothing to sneeze at. He's putting on plenty of a physical performance, and he did go out and run all the route tree with Max Duggan slinging the ball to him. So that's always fun to see for Frog fans, but I think it was a good display to show that he could have what it takes to be the number one receiver taken in the upcoming NFL draft.
Yeah, he measured in at 6'3", roughly 215 pounds. So I think for a receiver that size to run a 4.49 is really solid. It's not like it's going to blow you out of the water like a low 4.4 or a high 4.3 would, but his tape really speaks for itself, and he tested really well in the athletic drills at the combine. So I think I'm not sure he's a lock to be the number one receiver taken in this draft, but I think he's a high choice there. I think if there's anyone who's going to potentially rival him for that, it would be Jackson Smith and Jigba from Ohio State, and that's honestly because he didn't play this year really with the injuries. I think had Jackson Smith and Jigba played a full season like he did last year and played at that level, if not a higher level, he's undoubtedly the number one receiver that goes in this draft. But I think a team that takes Quentin Johnston is going to be getting a tremendous player, a guy who's lethal in the open field. You can line him up in the slot, a la Chase Claypool, and use his size to take advantage of some smaller nickel corners and defensive backs, some slower linebackers. So he's going to be a really good player in the NFL, and was happy to see him out there. Kendre Miller didn't do any workouts. He didn't do any workouts at the combine either, but it sounds like he's still recovering from the knee injury that he suffered in the Fiesta Bowl game against Michigan. So kind of unfortunate. I think he would have a chance to potentially put himself in the conversation for day two prospects, second, third round prospects if he were to test really well at the combine and the pro day. He's really going off of his tape right now, and I think he does have really good tape for what it's worth, but because he is a running back and there are, multiple other guys who have done the combine and the pro days and have tested well, I'm being optimistic and saying he could be a third rounder. I feel like fourth round is more realistic for him, but he's also a guy that I think is really a plug and play running back in a running back by committee for most teams in the league. So they're both going to be tremendous pros, Quentin Johnston and Kendre Miller. What I enjoyed was, the pro days are an opportunity for more players than just the guys who were invited to the Senior Bowl games and the combine. So, yeah, you had all the familiar faces like Max Duggan and Steve Avila and Dee Winters and Trey Tomlinson and those guys, but you had Tay Barber out there, you had Gunnar Henderson out there, Amari DiMercato reportedly ran a upper 4.3, lower 4.4 40 time, according to Steven Johnson, and had a really good day. So if that's true, then really happy for him, as a veteran guy. Terrell Cooper, George Ellis, couple veteran defensive linemen were out there, Lowell Ugwak. So it's an opportunity for guys who may not have other chances to get noticed by pro scouts to go through all the drills and show what they can do. So from everything I read and I saw, everybody got through it healthy, and Max Duggan took the field for some throwing drills and looked more comfortable, I'd say, than he did at the combine. So the NFL draft's going to be here before we know it. So really excited to see how many TCU players get drafted. Last year, only one player was invited to the combine. That was Obina Eze, and he didn't get drafted. So it was the first time since 2008 that TCU didn't have a single player get drafted. I think this year is going to make up for that. I really think there can be 8 or 9 TCU players taken in this draft at all different spots. So really excited to tune in next month and see how all that unfolds.
Yeah, I love the NFL draft. It's super fun, and to have this many Horned Frogs in it is going to be very exciting. And yeah, maybe Bill Belichick was not there really to look at Quentin Johnston in the first round. He was there to look at Max Duggan as he needs to. They already need
they need to move on from Mac
Jones replacement
if there's talk in New England that some guys might like the Zapper Bailey Zappi more than Mac Jones, then Mac might be. And who knows? I mean, the Raiders, they have Josh McDaniels now, and they need a quarterback. I don't know if they'll take one in the first round, but maybe they bring in Mac Jones from New England, and then the Patriots grab our boy Max later on in the draft. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I don't particularly want to root for the Patriots. That's not what I'd like to do. But if Max Duggan's there, how can you not? Okay, yeah. So I think that's all for the big stuff. We can move on to the other things out here. So TCU men's tennis bounced back from its loss last week to Texas with a big-time sweep of USC. USC was ranked number 10, and TCU dropped to number 3 in the rankings, despite its only loss being to number 3 Texas, a team it had beaten already this season. So, whatever. We don't need to argue about ITA tennis computer rankings, but I don't know, a little bit fishy there. I don't know what kind of burnt orange button is
all
being
I can
pushed
think of
there.
is they must not take the indoor stuff it must not be weighed as heavily as the outdoor competitive stuff. That's all I can think of.
To be fair, the indoor contest is at a neutral site, and Texas did beat TCU in Fort Worth, so maybe they're putting a little bit of weight into that, which is fine. But TCU moves ahead, improves to 16-1 on the season, and really just another dominant match. TCU, after losing its previous 2 doubles points in the previous 2 matches, quickly made work of the doubles point against USC and ran through singles just in really superb fashion. I mean, Jake Fernley was incredible, hung a bagel on the preseason number 1 player. Sebastian Gorsny, I don't think has lost in singles yet this season. He continues to dominate, sweeping through another point. And Luke Famba picked up his 100th career singles win as a Horned Frog. So a banner weekend for the Horned Frogs to close out the non-conference schedule. Next up this weekend is Oklahoma, and on Friday. So you're probably listening to this Friday night. I think it's 5:30 over on the Purple Courts. Conference play starts against the Sooners. So make your way out there. Go check out the men's tennis open up Big 12 play against the Sooners. Anything on tennis, Russ?
Nope. I think they're continuing to roll. Happy to see them bounce back from the Texas loss, and I was confused as well when I saw number 3 in the rankings after 1 loss. When you consider the amount of ranked teams that they've beaten, not just in the indoor season, but I mean they beat Illinois, they beat UCLA, beating USC now. Maybe they'll bump up a tick to number 2. Who knows? But the resume speaks for itself. They're not beaten up on cupcakes. They're beaten up on the best of the best across the country. So perhaps they'll be more motivated. David Roditi, with the Roditi reports that he puts out after every match, talked at length about the loss to Texas and how they're going to learn from it and use it as fuel moving forward. And you have 3 top 50 matchups coming up with Oklahoma Friday, Oklahoma State on Sunday, and then Baylor after that. They're all top 50 programs. So there are no days off in the Big 12 in any sport, and men's tennis is included there. So happy to see the Frogs bounce back and get that win, and a few more home matches coming up. So get out there to the Friedman Tennis Center and show some support for sure.
Yep. Also, continuing with their undefeated season and continuing to maintain a number 1 overall ranking, TCU Beach Volleyball had another undefeated weekend, running through its home invitational, the Fight in the Fort, to move to 20-0 on the season, taking down a few ranked opponents, including Grand Canyon and Florida International again. And I guess Texas now has a beach volleyball program. I think this is their first season. TCU handled them with a 5-0 sweep. So Horned Frogs continuing to dominate on the sand as well. This weekend, head out to Jacksonville, Florida, for another opportunity to go get some ranked wins. with Pepperdine and Stetson included in that 4-team invitational matchup. So Pepperdine traveling all the way across the country. That's from Malibu to Jacksonville is about as far as you can go to go to a beach volleyball match. But both of those, Pepperdine and Stetson, are both really good programs, although they're at the lower end of the rankings of this top 20 rankings. Both of them, I would expect to see them in this in the tournament come the end of the season, and look out for them, because those are certainly losable contests for the Horned Frogs. So a big weekend there in Jacksonville. And the last thing that we can close on, men's golf wins another tournament. How about that? Men's golf has now won 2 tournaments in a row. Taking the UNC Wilmington tournament. I don't know much about that.
The Seahawk Intercollegiate Tournament, in Wilmington, out on the East Coast, and I can't remember the name of the course, but I believe they won the tournament title by 1 stroke. I believe Wright State was the team that was in second, and I also believe that when they went out and won the GCU tournament, the Copyright U tournament out at the Copyright U golf course, I think they won that tournament by 1 stroke as well. So they play a lot of holes. They play 54 holes over a span of 2 days for these tournaments, and over 800 team strokes are counted up. And when you win a tournament by 1 stroke, I mean, that's... Yeah, I'm a guy that goes out and hopes to shoot mid-90s, and sometimes the strokes add up, especially when you get closer to the green and closer to the pin. So it's kind of wild to think about how much golf is played, how many different players are out there, and to add up that many strokes and have it come down to just 1. It's kind of crazy to think about. But yeah, how about TCU men's golf winning 2 tournaments? And I know we brought up Tom Hoagie earlier with his record-setting round at the Players. So who would have thought that we'd be here talking about men's golf? But here we are. It's been that kind of year for TCU sports, not just in the major sports, but all of the different non-rev programs. We haven't even talked about the equestrian team finishing second in the Big 12 Conference, and having a laundry list of All-American riders in multiple different disciplines, and a team that has an opportunity to potentially make a run at a national championship in equestrian, not to mention the rifle team finishing second in the national championship. So you want to win, you know where you got to come. You got to come to Fort Worth and compete for TCU, because every team is winning right now.
That's right. It's the everything school, and that's, we love it. We obviously here we enjoy talking about all the things, but they make it easy for us because it is very enjoyable to cover all of these teams. They're really competing at the highest level, so they make it easy and fun for us, and we hope you enjoy listening here, and we thank you for taking your time to listen to us and to read everything that we put out there at frogsofwar.com. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and we'll catch you next time. Go Frogs.
Go Frogs. Watch out for April Fool's Day coming up this weekend. Don't get baited online by any suspicious tweets or Facebook posts or anything like that.
Read before you retweet.
Absolutely. Yes. Go Frogs.
All right, go Frogs.